DJing. What is it? Is it rocking the house for anywhere from a small group to a large group of people? Yes. Is it sharing a cake with friends? Yes. Is it making weddings not suck as much? Also yes. Is it impressing friends and family or corporate people with your musical selections? Absolutely all of these things is true. Is it endangering the lives of thousands of people so the CEO of Goldman Sachs can pretend that he has a soul? No. No, it's not. My name is Jeremy, this is Red Means Recording, and I have been challenged by Hercules, to learn how to DJ. The funny thing is, they didn't realize that I already know how, but it's been a really long time. So this video is to talk about what I think of DJing in terms of how it can help you as a musician. We're also going to look at the DJ Control Impulse 500, or what little I've figured out of it so far. In case you haven't figured it out, this video is sponsored by Hercules. But I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you learn something. I'm going to learn something. That's the whole point. Let's get started. So really, for serious though, what is DJing? Well, it's picking and playing tracks for people, playing music for people, showing off your musical style, and making people hopefully, enjoy themselves, either from a chill perspective or from a dancing perspective. You add vibe, you add color, you bring the party, so to speak. I actually DJ'd for a better part of a decade in San Francisco. I was getting paid, so I guess technically I was a professional DJ. I started at some clubs in the Lower Haight. There was a regular called Drunk and Horny that I played at. Later I broke out into doing some of my own nights. We had a brief one called Fuck Shit Let's Dance, or FSLD, that was in the Tenderloin. I played Burning Man a lot. I played a lot of one-off events, and then I sort of started doing like guest appearances at some other clubs. It was a lot of fun. Honestly, it was just insane. Like, it was a lot of fun. Over that period of time, I also learned a lot about music and production and socialization. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the ways that I think DJing can help you improve as an electronic musician and stuff like that. So when I DJ'd, I primarily DJ'd like house and techno, though at like Drunk and Horny and some of the things I would spin more eclectic, like electro pop and stuff like that, because the DJ that I played with mostly played like retro stuff. House and techno are pretty easy to mix, especially if they have intros and outros, meaning that 32 bars of just drums or non-tonal things at the beginning. But there's lots of fun things you can do where you actually start tracks at different points. One of the first things that I noticed about this after I started playing with it was that there are these things called hot cues, which are really easy to set up. They're like markers in your track. So you can like set them up at various places in the track and then just press it and it will go to that place. So basically you can start building your library up to have these hot cues and have your intro maybe is hot cued, your break is hot cued, maybe when the drum beat fully comes in is hot cued. I think that's really cool. As someone who played mostly like full-on electronic music that was like beat driven, I used the sync function a lot, and I generally think anybody who like talks shit about using a sync function on a DJ controller is probably full of shit. Anyways, the sync function basically allows you to automatically match two tracks so that you can focus on things like the EQing or the energy or the effects that you have access to, which I think is really cool. So how can this help you learn about music? Well, the first thing is that you have to like pick tracks that go together. So that means like genre, energy, pitch, tempo, and then it comes down to things like swing, like how much shuffle does a track have? Will it fit with another track that has that much shuffle? And you start learning oh, if I mix this part of the track with this part, I actually create like a sympathetic rhythm, and it works out really well. So some of the best moments I've had is when like I match one part of a track up with another, and it almost makes like a whole new track. And you just kind of want to live in that space, which is super fun. When I was DJing, I was using this really tiny old Hercules controller. Actually, it was like the something 200. It was about this big, and it was like this kind of ugly gray thing. And I was using Tractor at the time. What I was really stoked to see about this was there was just some like super dope features that were just built in. And yes, this is a sponsored video, but I'm being honest here. Like, I actually really like some of the shit that they've just added on this. So one of the cool things is this auto loop thing. So if I press this, I automatically create a loop that will just, loop. And if I move this in and out, I create longer or shorter loops. and I can turn this off and then loop again in a different place. So when you're doing things like intros and outros, and maybe you just have a part of the track that you really, really want to keep on playing so that you can work on mixing it in, that's a really awesome function. I can't believe I've gotten this far into the video and not talked about the sampler already, because the first thing that I wanted to do when I noticed this had a sampler was put a particular sound on it. And I went over to the sampler, which is like 8 slots on each side of samples, and I pressed this. And I was like, okay, we're done. You have to start understanding music from like not only a technical perspective, like the mix itself, the pitch, the vibe, shuffle, stuff like that. But also, I find that these 3-band EQs here, this classic DJ 3-band EQ, is a really, really interesting way to start understanding where music lives in a track. So let's go ahead and give this a try real quick. So we have mids. And by the way, all this stuff is stuff that I've made over the years, back when I used to like do actual electronic music that was more dance oriented. Highs. And then our kick. So you'll use these as you DJ to like shape the track. Like it's really, really easy to bring parts of the track in and match them. And you'll start to understand like where different parts of the energy live in the track. And that really helped me as a producer too, realizing like how much of the track lived in this particular mid band or lows or highs, and how they interacted with other tracks, which I thought was really, really cool. Just another really cool feature that this has built into it is this DJ style filter. This is a very classic, like high pass, low pass. So low over here, high over here. And on mixers that I used to use, there was like one filter, I believe, that you had to share between the two things. You could like assign it, but this one actually has 2 built in, which is super cool. Okay, so track selection will teach you about genre, vibe, all that kind of stuff. EQ will teach you about where music lives and how energy works in particular types of music. It will also teach you a little bit about like the concept of mixing different parts of tracks into each other. I know that sounds weird and it's obvious for DJing, but like I really found that like I learned a lot about like, okay, well, if I want this kind of energy in this track, I'm going to make sure that it lives mostly here. And also if I want this track to be mixable by a DJ, I'll want to like sort of focus on this section for a bit and then move on. And that brings me to sort of one of my third points, which I think is probably maybe one of the most important things. A lot of people come to me talking about phrasing in music. How do I arrange a track? What do I do in this track? I have this good loop. What do I do with it? As a DJ, you're going to have to slurp in a lot of that information. You're going to have to learn about intros and outros. How long does an intro take? Is it 16 bars? Is it 32 bars? How long is the break in this track? Like, how long is the outro? How long is the drop? All these like different like components to the arrangement. What is the artist doing in this part that like makes it work? So you start sort of picking up on this stuff as you mix tracks together. One of the things I talk to people a lot about in my lessons is this concept of active listening, where you take a track and you sit down with it and you really pay attention to what's going on, either from a sort of production standpoint or an arrangement standpoint. You sort of like make a map of it in your head. DJing will make you do that. Like you basically just have to. You have to know the tracks inside and out, and it becomes sort of an osmotic process. Like you start really, really feeling things about the way that tracks go together and start developing sort of an innate sense of how production works from these kind of things. One of the other things that I'll say that DJing helped me learn from a music perspective was how my music affects other people. As the DJ, you are in charge of creating the sort of sonic backdrop and really pushing people's like brains towards a certain feeling, whether or not that's on like a giant dance floor or whether or not that is sort of more ambient in the background. You have a lot of responsibility, and you need to really understand what the music that you're going to be playing is going to do to the people that are on the dance floor. DJing really helped me get a much more objective sense about what music can do to people and when it's appropriate to introduce certain energies into my music. You can prepare your set all you want. You can have the best tracks you've ever heard in your life, but if people aren't responding to it on the dance floor, like, or in any setting, in the bar or whatever, you have to like read the room and sort of like understand what's going on with people in the audience. You have to be able to be agile, and you have to be able to like pick something you think is going to work. So there's this just like really weird sort of like psychic meta performer audience like thing that you set up with these with the people listening to your tracks, and it's cool. Like it teaches you a lot about music, and I think that objectivity, as long as you're paying attention and not just like throwing tracks at people because you think they're cool, I think you'll learn a lot about what music is and how it works with people. Like I said, Hercules has challenged me to, learn how to DJ. For me, that means I'm going to make a set of all the tracks that I have made that are appropriate for this kind of thing. Like I said, I've made a lot of 4 on the floor tracks. I've, released a lot of 4 on the floor tracks, some remixes for other people, some stuff just for myself. And so in the next video, I will be, I guess, performing a set. So I'll be using this software they have called Djing. It's free. You can also use Serato Lite, but I decided to jump into this. The fact that this is free is pretty dope, because back in the day, I had to like pirate Tractor to do anything. There's a lot going on in this interface, but I just want to talk about a couple things I think are cool. One, if you don't know how to DJ, they have this like DJ Academy thing. It will load in the interface, and you can go through how to use the controller and sort of the basics of DJing. It's also free on YouTube, so if you ever wanted to like get into DJing, you can do that. The other cool thing is this assistant. Again, I mentioned earlier, I don't think hitting sync on decks is cheating. I also don't think that this is cheating, and I'll explain why. I have been very drunk, and in some cases very high, trying to play music for people. And there are points at which I have a responsibility to put the next track on, and I might not know about what the next track should be. So I kind of like this assistant thing because it will give you a suggestion of some tracks that might go with the track that you currently have on deck, which I think is cool. I'm going to be using this to make my set for sure. That keys into some of the stuff that you see on screen here. We have like all of this information. Obviously the title of the track, we have art over here for the track, artist, the length of the track, the BPM, the beats per minute, the tempo, obviously very important. And then the key. So this works in sort of the mixed in key kind of thing, which I had to pay for back in the day and tag my MP3s with it, which was a pain in the ass. This thing has it built in. So a lot of really, really cool information on here. And you can see that I can sort by various things in here. So if I just wanted to sort of stick in key for the tracks that I have on here, I can do that, which I think is really, really cool. You can see up here, there's all kinds of interesting visual information. We've got energy level. So red is high energy, green is lower energy. You can see throughout each track. So you get a really, really good visual reference of what's going on in that respect, which I think is really, really cool. I would really love to use my Beatport library for this, but I'm afraid if I do, I'll get copyright strikes. So I'm only going to be using my own shit. DJing can be super, super, super fun. And, all promotion aside, I think it's one of those things that as an electronic musician, a lot of people come to producing through DJing. I actually went the other way around and then ended up sort of like enriching my productions with DJing and making tracks for the dance floor. And it was a really good convergence of energies for me. So DJing, fun, unless you're the Chainsmokers and the CEO of Goldman Sachs. Anyways, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I'll see you in the next video.